The birthday candles burned quietly, their tiny flames trembling in the silence of the nearly empty diner. The colorful banner hanging above the booth proudly shouted, "Happy birthday," but the words felt more like a cruel joke than a celebration. Every passing minute echoed louder than the last, and every time the front door opened, hope rose inside me before crashing back down again. 40 years old, surrounded by untouched cake, empty seats, and broken expectations, I realized something terrifying. Not a single person had come. Then, just when I was about to blow out the candles alone, the diner door opened one last time, and my ex-wife walked in holding the hand of a little boy I had never seen before. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the incredible power of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that touch the heart. My name is Michael Carter, and I lived in a quiet town outside Asheville, North Carolina. Life had once looked promising. I had a stable job managing a hardware store, a loving wife named Rachel, and dreams that felt close enough to touch. But dreams have a strange way of disappearing when people stop talking to each other. Years of working long hours, carrying silent stress, and believing I had more time slowly built walls between Rachel and me. We didn't have dramatic fights, we simply became strangers sharing the same house until one day she packed her things and quietly walked away. Our divorce wasn't filled with anger. Somehow that made it hurt even more. The years after the divorce blurred together. My parents had both passed away, my younger brother had moved across the country, and many friendships slowly faded as everyone built families of their own. I buried myself in work because work never asked uncomfortable questions. It never reminded me how empty my house felt every evening. Birthdays became just another day on the calendar. At least, that was what I kept telling myself. This year was different because turning 40 somehow felt important. A coworker had convinced me to celebrate instead of hiding at home. They suggested a small gathering at my favorite diner, the same place where Rachel and I had shared countless breakfasts during happier days. I sent invitations to old friends, coworkers, neighbors, and even my brother. Nearly everyone replied that they would try to make it, so I reserved the booth, ordered a cake, and arrived early with something I hadn't felt in years: hope. 5 o'clock came and went, then 5:30, then 6. The waitress kept smiling politely each time she refilled my coffee, pretending not to notice that every chair around my table remained empty. One by one, excuses arrived on my phone. Someone's child became sick, another had unexpected overtime, a neighbor forgot entirely. My brother texted that his flight had been canceled. Eventually, the messages stopped coming altogether. The cake remained untouched except for the slowly melting candles shaped like the number 40. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to admit the truth. I wasn't just alone, I had become forgettable. I lowered my head into my folded hands, embarrassed by tears I couldn't stop. I wondered whether this was how life would always be from now on, working, sleeping, existing, waiting for days to pass without anyone truly noticing. Then the bell above the diner's entrance rang. I looked up. Rachel stood there wearing a green winter coat dusted with snow, smiling softly in a way I hadn't seen in years. Beside her stood a little boy bundled in a blue jacket, gripping her hand tightly while looking around the diner with wide, curious eyes. For a moment I couldn't breathe. She slowly walked toward my booth. The little boy carried a small gift bag almost as big as he was. Rachel looked older, wiser, but somehow peaceful. There was no bitterness in her expression, only kindness. She explained that one of my old coworkers had accidentally contacted her while trying to organize a surprise birthday gathering. When everyone else's plans fell apart, she couldn't stop thinking about how no one should spend such a milestone alone. She had debated for hours before deciding to come. The little boy was her nephew Noah, whom she had been raising after her sister passed away unexpectedly 2 years earlier. Noah shyly handed me the gift bag. Inside was a simple leather journal. Rachel remembered that I used to dream about writing stories someday, something I had completely forgotten about myself. The gift wasn't expensive, but it reminded me that someone had remembered the person I used to be before disappointment convinced me to stop dreaming. We shared dinner together in awkward silence that slowly transformed into comfortable conversation. Noah eagerly attacked 2 slices of birthday cake, proudly declaring that birthdays should never be celebrated alone because cake tasted better with friends. His innocent words broke something open inside me. Children have a remarkable way of speaking truths adults spend years trying to ignore. Rachel admitted that life hadn't turned out the way she expected either. Raising Noah had been difficult but meaningful. She confessed that despite everything, she had never stopped hoping I would eventually find happiness. As the evening stretched on, we found ourselves laughing about old memories instead of mourning old mistakes. We weren't trying to erase the past. We were simply acknowledging that people can change when enough life happens to them. Over the next several months, Noah insisted on visiting me nearly every weekend. We built birdhouses, went fishing, watched baseball games, and filled that empty journal 1 page at a time. He loved hearing made-up stories, and I discovered that writing still made my heart feel alive. Rachel and I never rushed anything. Trust grows quietly, much like spring after a long winter. We started sharing coffee every Saturday morning, then family dinners, then holiday traditions. Neither of us pretended the years apart hadn't happened. Instead, we allowed those painful years to teach us what truly mattered. I also began reconnecting with old friends instead of waiting for them to remember me first. I volunteered at community events, joined a local church group, and discovered that loneliness often begins to disappear when we choose to become present in other people's lives. The greatest surprise wasn't that Rachel had walked back into the diner that snowy evening. The greatest surprise was realizing that the worst day of my life had quietly become the beginning of my best chapter. 1 year later, on my 41st birthday, that same diner looked completely different. Every booth nearby was filled. Co-workers, neighbors, church friends, my brother, Rachel, and Noah, now proudly wearing a paper birthday hat while insisting on lighting every candle himself. The banner hanging above my seat looked exactly the same, but this time the room echoed with laughter instead of silence. I finally understood something: that birthdays had never been about counting years. They were about remembering that every new year offers another chance to rebuild what once seemed permanently broken. Sometimes life empties your table so it can make room for the people who truly belong there. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who may be feeling lonely today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us that hope can appear when we least expect it. Special request: before this story ends, please leave a comment with the words "No one should celebrate alone" if you believe everyone deserves kindness, love, and a second chance. As Michael looked around that crowded diner, he realized the candles no longer represented the years he had lost. They represented the light that had survived every disappointment. Sometimes the people who return to our lives don't come to restore the past. They come to help us build a future we never imagined. And sometimes all it takes to change a life forever is one unexpected knock on the door, one small hand reaching out in kindness, and one decision to believe that even after the darkest seasons, love still finds its way home.